I'll be the first one to say that hiring for your organization, especially early, is not simple. It's actually challenging, it's difficult, it's very uncomfortable. And so I want to come to you today with some framework that you can use for your hiring process to help you get better. Are you hiring some of the wrong people? Have you hired someone and on day 1, 2, or 3 want to fire them? Have you put yourself in a position where acquiring some of these skills has become difficult for you? Tune into this next episode of Speak Life. We're going to chop it up and go heavy on this topic. Welcome back to Speak Life. It's Mark Mead. Thank you for joining us today. I want to talk to you today about a topic that is starting to really excite me. Always really has, but you talk about it in different forms of content that we run. It's starting to gain a lot of traction. People are asking more for it. This is about tips for early entrepreneurs on building a strong hiring framework. So within inside of this hiring topic, there's a lot of moving pieces. And so hiring is maybe just one segment. We should probably call it personnel, maybe even go further, people development. But let's stick to the hiring framework for my early entrepreneurs right now, or for people that are in business struggling with this personnel issue, struggling with employees, struggling with independent contractors, what the expectation is, what it's not, how to help people through this, because I think it's pretty important. And I sucked at it for a long time. And I'm still learning every single day. So I learned from getting lumped up. Those are my favorite lessons probably. And they teach a lot. But let's go through it. I want to talk a little bit about what I think it should look like when you're getting started. The very first person that I hired was an administrative assistant for a lot of reasons. But I'm going to say this. I think the very first person you should hire is an administrative assistant. Here's the deal. We're visionaries, we're dreamers, we're doers. We're all wired differently. Some of us more organized than others. Here's what I know. For me, I'm very organized in my mind, very organized with my mouth, not with my hands. Just not. So when it comes to my desk and my stuff and, there's a mess everywhere. And I'll make a little small pile and justify why it's there and somehow know where everything is, but if someone else came into my office, they wouldn't know where anything is. So maybe it's my little world, but I do think that people like that tend to struggle with some of the things I'm about to go through. So your administrative assistant is going to be very organized. If they're not, you don't have one, just to be clear. High prioritization skills. Someone who could focus on structure, because in the early part of business, a lot of it is structuring. A lot of what you're doing day to day is structuring time, structuring the calendar, structuring emails you need to send out, structuring beginning stuff, training manuals, tools, systems, CRM. You got to get a lot of this stuff structured in order for it to start working well. And so you got to focus on like employee handbooks and procedural processes inside your company, how you bring people in, how you onboard them. This stuff just can't be in your mind. I mean, it can be, but you're going to butcher it 9 times out of 10 because you don't have a structure. I remember being at a place in business where we had the right people, but we realized we had skated along so long, so far without really creating structure. So I got a team of my leaders together. I said, hey, we need to build this A to Z. And they were really excited about it because, number one, it was something that they did well, but they were excited about. But I realized, like, we had a brutal onboarding process and a brutal offboarding process. Like, it was hard to keep traction with the stuff, hard to understand what was happening. So we had meeting on top of meeting. Every time we came back to the meeting a week later, we brought in the items that got done and then the items that were outstanding, where we needed to pivot to next. And we started developing this system that created ease. It created flow. It allowed for us to know, and not for just one person to know, for everybody to know how to do this, so that if one person was on vacation, or one person was out sick, or one person was on PTO. It was okay. We just needed something that was going to work for us. And so we built this business. But the problem is the leader didn't see the need at that time. So it wasn't there. It's not that no one else saw the need. It's that the leader didn't see the need. Understand your value in creating vision and doing these things. And so I like to bring in someone who's organized, high prioritization skills, structure first. We're bringing in sales. We're bringing in ideas. We're bringing all this stuff has to fall places. Like if I'm just think tanking, I don't write it down, or it's not written properly, it's not written in the structure, it's not written in flow. Sometimes I'm writing, I can't even read my own handwriting sometimes. When you bring in someone who is in those brainstorming meetings and you're voicing, they're typing, they're moving it, they're making it structured, they're making it look this way. We have it. We know what was said. Very, very important as you're getting going. I would say, and the reason why I emphasize an administrative assistant as my first step here is because the next step is define your core values. But you want to have your admin who's also very well written. Like they're not a hack with words. It's brutal to have to clean up everything after you've already done it. It's like, it's okay if we're going to make it look a little prettier, but to have to reorganize the whole thing. So find someone who can write well. You can give writing assignments in your hiring interview. You can do things that can put them in different lights. You could run it through ChatGPT to see if they were lying to you. It's okay. You could run it. You'll know what was chat and what was real. And so these are some things that we do, but why normally I would start with define your core values, but if you're anything like me, I didn't have any core values. Like we were running business for 10 years with no core values. I'm like, what are values? What's culture? What does that mean? What's the big deal? Hey, we're killing it. We're crushing it. I don't have time for that. I remember saying to someone, I don't have time for that. What's time for this? Well, you better make the time, because if you don't, that thing's going to eat you alive. And so the reason why I like bringing in the core values after, it just depends on who you are. Eat meat, spit bones. If you're the kind of person that needs them first, great. I don't mind building them with my admin assistant because they're going to help word it correctly and make sure it's done, make sure it's pretty, make sure it's ready. It's two of us equally yoked as far as what we believe the values are. No big deal. But if you like doing it yourself before your admin gets started, great. I just think that having someone structured, having someone to bounce it off of doesn't hurt. So define your core values. Very important. Your core values are your compass. It allows you to figure out who you want on your team. Do these people fit the values? Do these people embody what we embody? Do they like what we like? Are they like the company we're building? Are they not? How far outside? I love diversity, no matter what. So that's personality. Love it. Give me something different. I'm in. But the values. I don't need a whole bunch of diverse values. My values are the values. So I know what the values are. Are your people that you're bringing in aligned with the values? How do you know? I interviewed a guy. One of our values is love. I interviewed a guy and I said, hey, how do you think love plays a role in the success of a company? He goes, I don't think it plays a role at all. We're at the end of the interview. He's done. Doesn't matter how many interviews we did. He's done. Some people make the answer up as they go along. Some people really feel that because love's a tough word. Not everybody understands love the same way. Some people weren't loved as much. Some people were loved more. Some people love more openly, freely. Some people guard it. I'm not here to judge how you do it. I'm saying, how do you think love plays a role in the success of a company and why? If you don't think it plays a role, you might be right. just not at my company, maybe at a different company. So you have to define your values. You have to define what your values are, and then you have to, I roll them into the interview, but we also treat it like, okay, it's rolled into the interview multiple different times because it matters what people think. It matters how they feel. Some people read our values and they say, I got chills. Some people read them and they look at us and they go, wow, this really aligns with who I am. Like, that's amazing. And you could tell when it's genuine because they don't have to say anything. So roll this in, but this is part of your hiring framework. C, invest time in creating job descriptions. It's so important. Sounds super rudimentary. Sounds like everyone does it. I promise you everyone doesn't do it. I didn't do it for a long time. Now, if we're going to come up with a job, if we're creating a new job, or we have a job that already exists and we want to change it, maybe the job worked one way and we want to now alter it. People want to know how. Some people come in the interview, they go, how long have you had this position? Okay, whatever the answer is, it is. But it's like, I don't expect you to come in and do the same thing the last person did. So sometimes you have people in the organization that are like, well, we need it actually done this way. It used to be done this way. I'm like, it used to is the past, bro. Like, I need to accept the new person for who they are, what they bring to the table, what we saw in them, why. I'm not interested in it being a cookie cutter deal because the two people are totally different. That doesn't mean the job description changes. It might mean we altered it. It might mean we made it because we needed a new position. You need to define the job description. So what does that look like? If you're hiring for a business development manager, or if you're hiring for a content creator, you've got to be very specific with what it is you want the content creator to do, or what you want the business development manager to do. That title, business development manager, has a spectrum. It has a spectrum, just like most things. On one side, you have this sales dev person that's kind of in it, that is looking at some data and bringing clients in and conserving business and making sure that they're cultivating business from the business that we already have. On another spectrum, you got a data geek that's going through all kinds of data, that is trying to develop, programs and things based on the data that they see. The best version is probably someone in the middle, but what are you interviewing for? Which one do you want? Right? You got to be very clear because business development manager is too broad. It's too broad. And so you got to get into the nitty gritty. And if the biz dev manager position you had, you want half the things, and you're bringing in a new biz dev manager, you want different things, take the things out of the job description that you don't want and put the new things in. Critical to success, because people want to know what they're coming in to do. And it should not be sloppy. It shouldn't be. It should be pretty pinpoint accurate. Not that complicated, but you have to be intentional about it. When it comes to the job descriptions, Mark Mead, as the boss, I have two roles. I'm the CEO, I'm the chief revenue officer. My job is to run the company and to bring in money. Honestly, I don't know if I should be focused on the job descriptions, if I'm being honest, especially if I have an admin assistant. I don't mind brainstorming and going back when I'm going to go, da 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 da. Come, write it down, come back to me, bring it back, let's talk about it. Let's edit and see if we need to make any changes. I'm the chief revenue officer. I've got to bring in money or we don't grow. The position we're hiring for is not free. None of the systems we have are free. None of the advertising, marketing, any of it is free. So you, as the owner, CEO, you are also the chief revenue officer. You are not the chief hiring officer. Now, I've done a lot of my own hiring. Sometimes I get in the mix. Sometimes I have managers that take stuff. But at the end of the day, you are the chief revenue officer and the chief executive officer. You've got to cast vision and bring in money, especially early stages. As you start to build out your team, You're going to start to have people in place for different things, department heads, you'll have directors, you'll have managers, you'll have VPs, you'll have hierarchies, you'll have departments. You won't have to do everything every time something doesn't go right in department Y, because department head of Y will handle department Y, and they will bring to you the reports of what's happening. We aren't there right now. I'm talking more to my early entrepreneurs and how to create the hiring framework. So early on, you're wearing a ton of hats. So that's why if you could bring in someone who's very structured, knows how to get things done, knows how to execute on things and bring deliverables to the table, knows how to research, it's going to take a ton off your plate as you're pushing the business forward. Letter D, this is a sensitive one for my entrepreneurs. Firing. Firing is difficult. I remember very early on in business, I had a mentor. His name was Sean. He said to me, Mark, you're so benevolent. You just want to see everyone be happy. And he always wanted me to ask somebody. And I'm like, dude, it's fine. Everyone's fine. Yeah, they're growing. No worries. And the reality was I had holes leaking all over my boat. Stuff that inside I couldn't see. What I want to do, develop people. What I want to do, love people. What I want to do, care for people. Sometimes you can't love them more than they love themselves. Sometimes you can't care for them more than they care for themselves. I believe if you're doing this right, the person you brought in is driven for themselves first. They don't know you. They do not know the business. How could they be all in on the business? They don't even know what it is. It's a small business. This isn't Google. They got to be driven for themselves first. They can see all the different angles of the business. They can get acclimated. They can become, warm and cozy with their coworkers. And eventually, of course, the drive they have for themselves equals drive for the business. But understand, if you bring in someone that is not about that, you can bring in really smart people, maybe even well-intentioned, but they're just jerks. They're just complete jerks. Well, eventually they're going to bring down your business because you're always putting out fires. You always got the fire hose out. You're always running around them with water, locked and loaded. It's not going to work. Energy-wise, it's going to kill you, especially early. You need some people that are in, that understand what we're trying to do, the sacrifice it's going to take to win, the sacrifice it's going to take to push this thing over the cliff, to drive this thing, to get it bigger. Yes, we want to bring in benefits. Yes, we want to bring in more PTO. Yes, we want to bring in retirement, all the things, vacation time. I remember at a time in business, we had no vacation. People took vacation, they didn't get paid. How was I going to pay them? We were barely surviving. And I apologize. I'm like, look, it is what it is. I want this to change. The key was we kept driving, we kept pushing, we kept growing. And as soon as retirement and PTO and medical benefit, all that came into the business. It all came in. And the people that were there that helped get it there were rewarded. This is how it's supposed to work. But if they're an anchor, they're not helping the business or they're bringing the business down, they got to go. And you got to understand, yes, early on, firing is difficult because you want to have so many developmental conversations. You want to believe everyone's changing for the better, but it's not always like that. And so you got to kind of decipher what it is your business needs at that moment in time. And if the person X doesn't have it, you have to bring in another person. You have to. Now, sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes you didn't train them. Sometimes they didn't have the right support. Sometimes if you bring in person Y to shade what they do well versus what person Y does well, you have a happy marriage and you create some synchrony in the two positions. You got to be able to see some of this stuff. That's why you spend a lot of time reflecting and thinking on what's happening and talking to your people, seeing what it is they need, seeing where the deficits are, seeing what isn't happening. Massive. Last point I want to bring up here is you have to learn to adapt from your failures. So when it comes to hiring, it doesn't matter if you didn't get it right. I don't care who's judging you. I don't care if your people internally are judging you. I don't care if the people externally are judging you. Don't judge yourself. You can't fire yourself. You've got to bring in a new person. It doesn't matter. Stop saying, well, I tried that and it didn't work, so I'm not going to try it again. Dude, you did it one time. It's okay. You're going to have to learn from failures. I've had an immense amount of blunders in hiring, an immense amount of failures and talent. And failures doesn't always mean that it's just catastrophic. Sometimes you hire someone and after almost 2 weeks, sometimes earlier, you're like, this is just not the right fit. And you just kind of you have to get good at this. The only way to get good is failure. Newsflash. There's not going to be this, everything's not euphoric. Everything is not dancing in the meadows with the roses. Like, sometimes we have to work through stuff, and don't overjudge yourself. Like, you own the business. You've got to do what's best for the business, and you've got to be able to find the right people. When you find the right people, when you find the right players, man, does it get simpler. People that are driven, people that are smart, people that critically think, people that research well, people that don't just bring you problems, they bring you problems and solutions. Boy, does it get different. Very different. And all of a sudden, you're starting to build a team. You get 1, you get 2, you get 3, you get 4. You start to get a team of people that value the intelligence level of each other, that value the executional skills of one another. These values are in. People understand what's happening. People understand what's at stake for them in their careers, what they can do, what the company can stretch to. Starts to become crazy. But you've got to learn to adapt from your failures. Stop running from everything that doesn't go well. Stop trying things once and shutting it down. It's not how you're going to grow. It's not how the business is going to build. So when I think about early entrepreneurs on building a strong framework of hiring, these are the things I think about. What do you think about? Hopefully these steps help you. Hopefully this advice gives you an aid, kind of a crutch, something to lean on, something to start with. You're going to find out some of this stuff on your own, but get started. It's hard to scale anything with no people. It's hard to scale anything with no systems. Just remember, the people run the systems. The systems don't run the people. My opinion, 100% of the time. Love systems. They aid in helping us grow, but the people run the systems. You need to get yourself some people, and you need the right people. Hope this helps. Speak life. God bless. Does this conversation strike a nerve? Does it strike a chord? Is it allowing you to think? Have you done this correctly? Have you done this incorrectly? Are you doing this in a way that's allowing you to grow your business? We want to help. We want to come alongside you. I hope the content brings you value. If you are one of the people that have fallen into these categories of not defining your core values or not being the chief revenue officer because you're too busy putting out fires everywhere, this stuff is massive. You know how we do it, baby. On Speak Life, we're looking to network. Let's connect. Subscribe to the channel if it's bringing you value. We want to continue to have this thing drop down. Every time we drop new content, we want you to see it. We want you to spread it like wildfire. And comment in the comment section if you've done it differently than we have. We're so open to ideas. We want to learn too. We want to build a community that allows for people to grow. I hope this content helps you with some of your hiring needs for right now. And if you like this content, click over here to learn more about the best coaching approach with your team.